Good afternoon, everyone. I appreciate that. Good afternoon. So I want to give everyone a moment to get settled, but isn't this a beautiful, beautiful day to join together? So good afternoon. My name is Bridget Long, and I am incredibly proud to be the Dean of the Harvard Graduate School of Education. I am joined on stage by several of my HGSE colleagues, as well as our esteemed speakers, who I will introduce as the ceremony unfolds. Together, it is our pleasure to welcome you to this year's Convocation ceremony, and especially the 1,020 who will be graduating tomorrow. Convocation is an important moment to recognize the many outstanding individuals who have contributed to the HGSE community. Today's ceremonies will begin with a presentation of this year's Morningstar Award for Excellence in Teaching, followed by a presentation of our Intellectual Contribution Awards, Marshall Awards, and the Phyllis Trimling Award. We will then hear from our faculty and student speakers, after which we will present the 2022 class gift. And lastly, we will hear from the 2021 National Teacher of the Year and our convocation speaker, Juliana Ortube. After she concludes, I will share a few final announcements with you, and then it is off to the block party. Now, this is an absolutely wonderful event and celebration, but I also want to acknowledge that we are also dealing with tragedy. Today marks the second anniversary of the murder of George Floyd. And as we reflect on all the learning and discussion and action that his death prompted, we must all realize we still have very, very far to go. It was only 11 days ago that 10 innocent lives were lost in Buffalo, New York, and a racially motivated mass shooting that targeted Black men and women who were going about the business of ordinary life. And now we are faced with the truly devastating loss of 19 elementary school children and 2 teachers in Uvalde, Texas. As I wrote the community last night, thoughts and prayers are just not enough. It's not enough to address the devastating loss and the very serious problem we have in this country. Don't school children have a right to be safe? So, as I signed off on my message last night, I say this as the mother of an elementary school student, the mother of a middle school student, and a lifelong educator. And I know many of you share that with me. So, it is definitely a tough time, but I'm glad that I'm together with all of you. Graduates, I also want to alert you to the fact that there is a student-led effort to collectively express our grief and resolve. Instead of raising a children's book during the morning exercises tomorrow in Harvard Yard, some are instead raising a piece of black cardstock. Perhaps you might even use a white glow pen to write something meaningful on that card or to honor the victims. Your cohort is also organizing a community letter of support and templates that can be used to urge congressional members to do more. You're already taking action. And that is exactly what we need. And today and tomorrow, we will stand up. We're going to celebrate you because we need you. We so desperately need you, graduates. You are the hope that we send out into the world. So we're going to applaud, and we're going to laugh, and we're going to cheer, and depending on how you feel about your COVID status, might even hug, fist bump, or something like that. because we want to recognize all that you've accomplished, and perhaps even more importantly, all the change that you can bring about in the world and what we can do together. With that, let's get started. It is now my pleasure to present an important annual award recognizing a member of the faculty for excellence in teaching, excellence in formal and informal advising, and evidence of a caring, respectful, and enthusiastic commitment to students. The Morningstar Family Teaching Award was established in 2000 with a gift from Faith Morningstar, an HGSE alumna, and her husband, the Honorable Richard Morningstar, an alumnus of the college. Faith's experience as a student here inspired her and her family to establish this award that would not only recognize great teaching, but also those faculty members who helped to create a supportive environment in which all students thrive. Faith and her daughter-in-law, Liz, are here today. If you don't mind standing. Or waiting. Thank you, Faith. The Morningstar recipient is chosen each year based on nominations by the HGSE students. The award includes a monetary prize and recognition on a plaque in Longfellow Hall. This year, we had 147 nominations for a total of 52 faculty members. This outpouring of praise is a testament to the attention members of this community place on teaching and mentorship. And while this is never an easy decision, one faculty member's nomination stood out. To share a few excerpts, one student wrote, "This professor created the best learning environments I've ever experienced. She developed it with thoughtfulness, academic rigor, kindness, genuine community, and love for her students." Another wrote, "She helped me to learn to view the world and the questions we ask about it in a more holistic way. She challenged my assumptions about what it means to know something and taught me new ways to demonstrate and share my own knowledge and recognize knowledge in others." And finally, another student summarized, "She goes the extra mile and genuinely cares about us as humans. Her teaching is cutting edge, real, and it sticks with you." Without further ado, I'm delighted to share that this year's Morningstar Award winner is Aliyah El-Amin. So, Aliyah, you will receive a certificate. There's one coming, and the inscription on the certificate reads, "In recognition of your excellence in teaching and advising, and your caring, respectful, and enthusiastic commitment to students." Please join me again in congratulating Aliyah. Now, for the 16th consecutive year, HGSE is recognizing a student from each of our master's program with an Intellectual Contribution Award. Master students were given the opportunity to nominate a fellow student, the person who most inspired their learning and intellectual inquiry over the course of the year. The list of nominated students were then reviewed by the master's program faculty directors and program co-chairs who selected honorees. I'm very pleased to introduce the 17 recipients of the 2022 Intellectual Contribution Award. So as I read each student's name, they will step forward to receive a certificate and a gold honor cord to be worn tomorrow at commencement. The inscription on the certificate reads, "In recognition of your academic achievement and your contribution to academic life of HGSE. as nominated by your student peers and the HGSE faculty. So we will begin with Arts and Education, April Dobbins. From Education Leadership, Organizations, and Entrepreneurship, Daniela Garcia Estrella. From Education Policy and Analysis, Nolan Altvater. From Education Policy and Management, Anjali Matos. From Higher Education, Loyola Rinkin. From Human Development and Education, Celestina Lee. From Human Development and Psychology, Aziz Ahmadi. From International Education Policy, Patricia Vasquez. From Language and Literacy, Katie Wiseman. From Learning and Teaching, Turner Cooper. From Learning, Design, Innovation, and Technology, Julia Rose. From Mind, Brain, and Education, Joyce Bidi Olagongju. From Prevention, Science, and Practice, Christina Ha. From School Leadership, Katie Seltzer. From Specialized Studies, Sai Sambun. Sai. From Teacher Education, Alice Wang. And from Technology, Innovation, and Education, Eric Brown. Once again, congratulations to all of our intellectual contribution awardees, and thank you. It is now my pleasure to present the 2022 Commencement Marshals. Commencement Marshals are elected by their peers for their leadership and their involvement in the HGSE community and their commitment to service. They are honored as exemplary role models and representatives of the Harvard Graduate School of Education. 2 marshals are elected from our research and practice doctoral programs. 1 marshal is elected from the Certificate of Advanced Study program, and 1 from each of our 18 master's programs, including the Harvard Teacher Fellows program. As I read each student's name, they will step forward to receive the Marshal's Medallion to be worn at commencement tomorrow. And the marshals for the EDD and PhD research doctoral programs are Sarah Rendon Garcia. And Mark Chin. And the marshals for the EDLD program are Dexter Moore Jr. and Simone Wright. And the marshal for the Certificate of Advanced Studies is Clara Kang. And the marshals for the Master of Education are, for the Arts and Education program, Clara Hay-Bin Choi. From Education Leadership, Organizations, and Entrepreneurship, Mara Iyala. From Education Policy and Analysis, Valentina Tovar. From Education Policy and Management, Anjali Doti. From the Harvard Teacher Fellows Program, Caroline Coe. From Higher Education, Meredith O'Toole. From Human Development and Education, Liz Contreras. From Human Development and Psychology, Gustavo Luna. From International Education Policy, Maddie Bransell. From Language and Literacy, Julia Damaris. From Learning and Teaching, Crystal Fain. From Learning, Design, Innovation, and Technology, Dishant Singh. We can all check that out a little bit later on social media. From Mind, Brain, and Education, Jenny Wechter. From Prevention, Science, and Practice, Emily Alexander. From School Leadership, Kim Frushante. From Specialized Studies, Melissa Dearborn. From Teacher Education, Maddie Wheelock. And from Technology, Innovation, and Education, Rachel Diaz. Congratulations again to all of our marshals. It is now my pleasure to present the Phyllis Trimling Award. This award was created in 2000 to honor Phyllis Trimling, an HGSE alumna from the class of 1989 and the former director of the Radcliffe Seminars program. I'm pleased to welcome Phyllis to today's convocation, as well as Holly Weeks, Rob Scalea, and Neil Yanofsky, the three former Radcliffe Seminars faculty who created the award. Welcome. The Phyllis Trimling Award recognizes an HGSE student who works to advance society by advancing women, demonstrates inclusive leadership and is inspirational to others, promotes community as a management approach, and demonstrates the ability to employ multiple perspectives and sound decision-making. This year's recipient is Shruti Srinam, a master's candidate in the Learning and Teaching program. To tell you a little bit about Shruti, she received her BA in political science from the Columbia University, and she taught English and creative writing, as well as worked as a college counselor for a private company in Singapore. Shruti then served as a Teach for India Fellow in Mumbai, teaching 8th and 9th graders. For the last 4 years, she has been an educator at Avasara Academy, an experimental leadership academy for first-generation low-income girls from grades 6 to 12. And this past year, she became head of the languages department, and next year will be the director of teaching and learning at Avasara, overseeing their instruction, professional development, and academic policy. Her work at HGSE, Shruti has focused primarily on issues of equity and inclusion. For example, she conducted a youth participatory action research project over the last 2 years to study student-teacher relationships on campus. Her work has also highlighted the importance of student voice. And after graduation, Shruti hopes to continue supporting a team of students formed this year that researches and gives us feedback on instruction and classroom practices, and eventually trains other schools to incorporate student voice in similar ways. So please join me in again congratulating this year's Phyllis Trimling Award winner, Shruti Sriram. I would now like to take a moment to thank this year's Student Council. The Student Council is coordinated by Kevin Bohm, Director of Student Affairs, and Andrea Lee, the Assistant Director for Community Building and International Student Support. Members are elected by the HGSE student body at large, and they represent each academic program at the Ed School. This year's council made numerous contributions. They hosted community building and social events for students, including a successful HGSE formal. They had an active student advocacy and issues committee that pushed for free menstrual products to be offered across campus. And they provided opportunities for students to practice self-care through their art and de-stress programming series. I now ask that the members of the Student Council stand so we can show our appreciation for your service. I would also like to thank this year's cohort of Equity and Inclusion Fellows. The fellows have been taught and supported by Human Hurani, an HGSE lecturer on education. This year, the Equity and Inclusion Fellows work to advance the mission of diversity initiatives here at HGSE and within the greater Harvard community, with racial equity and justice at the core of their work. The 15 fellows developed and participated in programming throughout the academic year across HGSE and other schools at Harvard. Additionally, they collaborated with DEI offices in Boston City Hall, Somerville City Hall, 3 local school districts, including Cambridge Public Schools, 2 nonprofits, and MIT. So your goodness was spread all throughout the community. I want to recognize the training and advice they have provided on key equity and inclusion issues facing these institutions. I ask that the fellows and Human stand so that we can show our appreciation for your service. And now I will turn the podium over to Marty West, the HGSE Academic Dean and Shattuck Professor of Education. Marty will introduce this afternoon's faculty speaker.
Thank you, Bridget, and good afternoon, everyone. It is a pleasure and a real honor to introduce to you our 2022 Commencement faculty speaker, June Lei Lee. June Lei is the Saul Zantz Senior Lecturer in Early Childhood Education here at the Harvard Graduate School of Education, where every year we ask the graduating class of students to select a faculty member who has made a significant impact on their HGSE experience to speak at Convocation. It's a competitive process each year, and Dean Long and I were thrilled to learn that June Lei was selected to receive that honor. June Lei's research and practice focus on understanding and supporting the work of helpers, those who serve children and families on the front lines of education and social service delivery. To that end, June Lei has studied a wide range of developmental settings, including orphanages, child care centers, classrooms, and community youth programs, with a focus on learning from settings that succeed in adopting high-quality practices despite limited resources. Prior to joining HGSE, June Lei was the director and the Rita M. McGinley Chair for Early Learning and Children's Media at the Fred Rogers Center at St. Vincent College. Inspired by his role model, Mr. Rogers, June Lei developed Simple Interactions, a practice-based, strengths-focused, and community-driven approach to improving adult-child interactions in deep and simple ways. Here at HGSE, June Lei serves as co-chair of the Human Development and Education program. He teaches about improving human interactions and supporting adult helpers. Here's a sample of what his students say about him. One student wrote, "Dr. June Lei Lee stands out as a supremely caring, respectful, and enthusiastic teacher and advisor. His course pushed my thinking and perspective on both the importance of simple human interactions to support children and the ways we actually measure relationships." Another student reported, "June Lei's passion for empowering human relationships came through in every lecture, group activity, and assignment, all of which were so carefully planned and curated. I noticed myself putting a lot of thought into my assignments for this class because I wanted to match the thought and heart that was put into preparing the class." And finally, another student summarized, "June Lei's kind, caring, and warm manner served as a gentle scaffold to learning. He also gave me excellent and insightful career advice that I will treasure for the rest of my life." And so, I'm proud to introduce Professor June Lei Lee. June Lei, thank you for all you do for the HGSE community and for learners everywhere.
Whew, okay. So good afternoon, class of 2022, graduates and families. 2022届的同学们、家人们，大家好。So that was the same thing in Chinese, in case that wasn't clear. So actually, I thought about doing the entire speech that way, but not enough time. But I think it'll be really fun to have a multilingual commencement someday. Okay? With subtitles. We can totally make this work. So it is an unbelievable honor and privilege for me to serve as the faculty speaker for your graduation. And I'm not the only one who thinks so. So my two daughters, I don't know how to put this better, but they have a severe underappreciation for what I do at work. So once I took them for the Take Your Children to Work Day. So I took them to my college classroom, and I sat them on the front row so they can see, right, exactly what I do. And they both promptly fell asleep, like in front of all my students. So for all of you who have managed to stay awake in my classes, you get me. I thank you for proving my daughters wrong. And you give me the confidence to go on and on and on and on. So when Dean Long asked me to take part in today's celebration, I purposefully didn't tell my young high school daughter for a couple weeks. And then I just told her like in passing, like it wasn't a big deal to me. But her reaction totally surprised me. First, she stopped what she was doing, and then she said, "Why didn't you tell me earlier? Like, that's a great honor. You're like Mr. Barasa." So let me explain. So Mr. Barasa is her high school English teacher, her track coach, and the faculty speaker at her sister's graduation in high school during the pandemic year. And Mr. Barasa did all of that mostly on Zoom. Right? And he had a dog, a toddler, a baby on the way, and his wife was a teacher in our school. So in my household, to be compared to Mr. Barasa is the highest compliment. And Mr. Barasa is not alone among the teachers who serve in this country and all around the world. In a 2021 study of 14,000 middle school and high school students across the United States, when the students were asked, despite everything that have gone wrong during the pandemic, what has gone well? And the number one answer across all demographic groups of students was teacher support and their flexibility during this time period. And in spite of all the challenges in the world, our teachers have always found ways to stand by their students and stand with their students, and sometimes, even in the face of violence. And whether it is in Newton, Connecticut, Parkland, Florida, or yesterday in Uvalde, Texas. Today, we are truly honored here to have the 2021 Teacher of the Year, Juliana Ortube, or to your children and families, Miss Earth. As our convocation speaker, she represents so many teachers who deserve our gratitude and who, no matter how many thank yous they receive, still wish that they could do more. After I said yes to Dean Long, I went into a bit of a panic mode. I've never spoken at graduation before, so I start Googling commencement speeches. And I wondered, do I go for like the inspirational message, or was I supposed to go for the aspirational message? And in the end, I have no idea what the difference was. So I thought I'd better just start with what is most honest. My most honest feeling then and now is that I know I personally could have done more to support your learning and development while you're here. And I know that I can speak on behalf of all of the staff and faculty here, no matter how each of us feels about our individual work, that we together as a school want to do more and can do more. And your presence here, your enthusiasm, your sense of urgency, your advocacy have been a gift to all of us who work here. And we thank you for reminding us, for encouraging us, and most of all, for trusting us to do more and to do better for each cohort of graduates who will follow in your footsteps. I also recognize that your experience here is an important but small part of who you are. Even your Harvard degree, it does not define who you are. Instead, you will define what this education means to the world. Your being here today, your accomplishments, and your service to the world up until now and in the years to come are possible because there have been people in your life who cared for you, who supported you, who loved you into becoming who you are right now. Some of these people are sitting right here, ready to hug you. Some of these people are far away watching and thinking of you. And some of these people live in your heart and your memories. No matter where they are, I hope you have the opportunity today to tell them in person on the phone or in a prayer, you have been enough for me. I have gotten to know some of you during this school year, who you are and what you want to accomplish in the world and what you expect of yourself. I have a feeling that this is true for many of you, if not all of you, that it might be very difficult for you to ever be satisfied with what you give to the people and communities that you serve. You would always think that you could learn more, you could do more, and give more, and you wouldn't easily give yourself credit for having done enough. So if I could wish for one thing, I hope that you would allow yourself the grace of being enough. You might wish to be able to give all your attention and time to the people and places that you care about, but please know that when you show up fully and honestly and authentically, whenever you are able to be with the people you care about, you can be enough. You might wish that you would always know the latest and the greatest educational research and interventions, but I hope you will come to understand that you are enough because you strive to know your people and your community harder than anyone else. And you might wish to right all the wrongs in the world by fighting for every resource and opportunity just to make life safe and equitable. In that effort, I hope that you will gradually discover that for your community, it is you who are the most important resource. You are more than enough. So one day when a young person in your life turns to you at their moment of celebration and says, "You have been enough for me," I hope you will simply bow and accept that blessing. 2022届的同学们，祝贺大家。Class of 2022, congratulations to you and all who love you, and to my daughter's English teacher, Mr. Barassa. Thank you. I hope one day your little children will grow up and fall asleep in your class too.
So thank you so much, June Lei, and congratulations on being selected by our graduating students to be our faculty speaker this year. Isn't he absolutely amazing? So I present this gift to you.
Thank you.
I would now like to introduce our student speaker, Kim Frushante. Kim is a master's candidate in our school leadership program and grew up in the Pacific Northwest and now calls New Orleans her home. Prior to HGSE, Kim attended Tulane University, where she earned a bachelor's degree in political science and worked as a teacher and instructional leader in New Orleans. While at HGSE, Kim's interest in nonprofit and school leadership, entrepreneurship, and early childhood development supported the launch of her New Orleans-based nonprofit early learning center, Early Partners. Following graduation, Kim plans to scale Early Partners into a network of schools aimed at transforming access and quality in early childhood education. Kim was chosen by our selection committee of faculty, staff, and students to be this year's student speaker. Please join me in welcoming her.
Good afternoon, friends, families, distinguished faculty, and fellow graduates. I am deeply honored to speak here today. I prepared remarks for this occasion about 6 weeks ago, centered around the idea of place and sprinkled with some bad jokes. After hearing the news yesterday, I knew that I would be remiss to not address the tragedy in Texas to a tent full of educators. Many of us have read countless articles, engaged in spirited discussions with peers, and listened to many a lecture on how to make school a safe place for learning. While I'm not a seasoned or gifted enough speaker to completely adjust what I'll say to you today, I am grateful for the human capacity to be able to feel more than one emotion at once. Today, I feel a deep sadness and grief for the victims and their families of this horrific tragedy, an anger and indignation that our elected officials have still failed to act to prevent acts of violence such as these. Gratitude that in this moment in time, I can find comfort with so many people who I love and admire. And lastly, a fire and motivation to keep on pushing with the work we've started here at the Harvard Graduate School of Education. And I'll take a moment to remind you all, and perhaps myself as well, that experiencing joy doesn't mean that we've forgotten about the context in which we are living, but rather that these moments are the fuel that keep us fighting the good fight another day. With all that in mind, I'd like to start with some gratitude. Thank you to my faculty advisor, Dr. Mary Grassa O'Neill, for your guidance. And to all of my professors who have uniquely and profoundly impacted my leadership forever. To my classmates and friends, especially SLP folks, for your companionship through this roller coaster of a journey. Thank you. To my parents, Amy and Frank Frushante, for your unconditional love. To my husband and my partner, Taylor Gilbert, for your unwavering support and steadiness. And to our two children, Edith and Andy, for always understanding when mommy needed to go to class. 20 years ago, when I graduated from high school, I got a core group of my friends each a copy of Oh, the Places You'll Go by Dr. Seuss. You're off to great places. Today is your day. Your mountain is waiting, so get on your way. Classic. Since then, I've learned a few things. One, Dr. Seuss drew some pretty racist propaganda cartoons during World War II. Sorry, old friends. And two, place is a deeply subjective and highly fluid term. 2 years ago, I got an email inviting me to learn to change the world. It was an email that changed my life. I'm guessing I'm not the only one here for whom this is true. That email, that invitation, changed my perception of myself and my own ability forever. Heck, it changed the world's perception of me forever. 18 years before, I dreamed of the places I'd go, the hollowed halls of the Ivy League, of Harvard. Certainly never seemed within reach. But that day I learned I was going to Harvard. But in 2020, going to Harvard meant something very different. And as it turned out, those hollowed halls would have to wait. Tomorrow, all of us graduate from Harvard. Yesterday, I had to ask for directions to the bathroom. You see, as a virtual part-time student, I've never been to this place. 4 days ago was my first time ever stepping foot onto this campus. Oh, the places you'll finally go. Place. Together, over the last 2 years, we've redefined the meaning of the word. Still, let me tell you about some of the literal places I would go while attending Harvard. I would go to my guest room, where I learned from some of the most brilliant minds in education today. It was there where I confessed to a Zoom room full of strangers that I once waited in line for a selfie with Dr. June Lei Lee at an AC conference. The only consolation for having to follow June Lei today is that you all have more context for that statement. In that same room, weeks later, June Lei gave me feedback on the theory of change I wrote as a final for the class that he co-teaches with Dr. Stephanie Jones, a document I used to set up Early Partners, the school that I now run. It was in that same guest room where I confronted my own racial identity in Dr. Irvin Scott's Race, Equity, and Leadership class. I cried with friends, all sitting in different rooms, in some cases thousands of miles away, when we learned that Breonna Taylor's killer would not be charged. We challenged each other to think more deeply about how our identities impacted our leadership and how we could build schools where equity isn't just a poster on the wall and an hour-long workshop, but the foundation upon which a school is built. You see, those brilliant minds I mentioned weren't just on the faculty. It was in that same guest room where I would be inspired and challenged by my classmates, many of whom were also leading schools, starting nonprofits, or teaching day after day in masks or on Zoom. It was in that place where I came to realize we weren't just learning to change the world, we were actively doing it. Oh, the places we'll go. But fast forward to this school year, when I would go to Florida. It wasn't for a trip to the beach. I started the first week of classes this year in Florida after Hurricane Ida shut down my city and my startup school. During evacuation, I would also go to my car with my husband, our 2 young children, and our 10-month-old bloodhound puppy. On I-10, somewhere between New Orleans and Orlando, is where I completed the first 2 weeks' worth of readings for Dr. Meredith Rowe's class, a class that would later reshape my approach to pedagogy and professional development for Early Partners. Once returning home, I would finally go to my closet, my makeshift home office after the 4th class quarantine for one of my kids. It was there where I got feedback on a pitch deck from the Comm Lab, learned that a balance sheet should always be balanced from Jim Honan, and had a Zoom conversation with former Secretary of Education, John King. This collection of places is not your conventional Harvard experience. Yet this place is where we all found our people, those who dedicate their lives to making every place radically better for the future. So today, as I look at all of you for the first time in person, I can't help but think, many of you are much taller than what I was expecting. I feel very small. But in all seriousness, in these times of incredible uncertainty, I am so grateful to know that all of you will be off in your new places, fighting that good fight and helping others learn to change the world.
So thank you, Kim, and congratulations again. I would now like to invite the chair of this year's class gift campaign, Brittany Scott, to join me. Brittany is completing her master's degree as part of the Education Policy and Analysis program with a concentration in global, international, and comparative education. She is a proud graduate of Howard University. My sister also went there. Where she graduated Phi Beta Kappa and summa cum laude with a Bachelor of Arts degree in economics. Prior to HGSE, she was a program associate with DC Public Education Fund, where she effectively managed a $15 million portfolio of over 10 grant-funded programs to help DC public schools achieve their strategic priorities. Brittany spent the year at HGSE working as a student intern in the development office and as the gift chair for the 2022 class gift campaign. Along with her committee of 6 other master's candidates, she led the campaign to its highest level ever, raising more than $27,000 from over 300 student donors. I am truly in awe of the hard work the committee has done to support a critical priority for HGSE, financial aid for our incoming class of students. Thank you for all you've done, Brittany, in working for the betterment of HGSE, and to your committee, and to all of you who gave. Brittany will now tell us a bit more about the 2022 class gift.
So good afternoon. Again, my name is Brittany Scott, and I'm the 2022 class gift chair. So each year, students at HGSE come together to make a collective impact by giving monetarily to the class gift fund, motivated by the fact that 100% of the funds raised goes to financial aid to make HGSE a reality for an incoming master's student. It has been an extremely busy semester, but it has been amazing to see the competitive spirit that has come out across all the programs, especially through the cohort competition. A huge congrats again to the Education Policy and Analysis program and the Education Organization Leadership and Entrepreneurship programs for tying in the cohort competition. And so through our collective power, we will be able to make the largest class gift contribution to date, leaving an indelible mark on HGSE before we walk across the stage tomorrow. And so I'm thrilled to announce that this year, through our support of the class gift committee members, including Jeffrey Ahn, Maria Ireland, Talia Macardo, Karen Ejiofor, Parisa Loftus-Ham, and Flora Choi, and the support of our colleague Matt Grandin from the Development Office, we were able to raise an astounding $27,358.22. So thank you all again for your support through the semester, and congratulations to all of us as we graduate tomorrow.
Thank you again, Brittany, and thank you to the entire class gift committee for all your hard work and for your service to the Ed School. It is now my honor and pleasure to welcome our 2022 Convocation speaker, Juliana Ortube. When I think about why we asked Juliana to speak today, I immediately think about all the educators in my life who inspired me. I think about the educators who saw my value and helped me to realize it, and the educators who not only helped me find my voice, but also to maximize my volume. I want you to take a moment to reflect on the people, the teachers, the educators who were there for you. Certainly one silver lining of the pandemic is that there's a bright spotlight on our nation's educators and the pivotal role they play in students' lives and the well-being of our communities. We know all too well the challenges that students and families have faced and continue to face. But educators, like Juliana, and her extraordinary efforts on the front lines inspire hope for a just and equitable future that all students deserve. Juliana is the 2021 National Teacher of the Year. She is the first Latinx recipient of the award since 2005, and the first teacher from Nevada, meaning that Juliana is history in the making. She is a first-generation bilingual immigrant who spent her 12-year career as an educator, serving as a mirror for her school community, helping students to be proud of their identities and families and to acknowledge their strengths and contributions. Juliana teaches at Kermit R. Booker Senior Innovative Elementary School in Las Vegas, where she serves as a co-teacher in pre-kindergarten through 5th grade special education settings, and as an instructional strategist developing supports to meet students' needs. Her students, as June Lei said earlier, know her as Ms. Earth for her efforts to beautify schools and unify the community through murals and gardens. Her creativity in providing diverse learning experiences for her students is one of the many things that inspired her selection as the National Teacher of the Year Award winner. In this, Juliana has advocated for a joyous and just education for all students, one that is inclusive and celebratory of all students' identities, families, and communities. She has also been a dedicated leader and advocate for students' differing academic, social, emotional, and behavioral needs. Juliana holds a bachelor's degree in bilingual elementary education and a master's degree in special bilingual education from the University of Arizona. She is a national board certified teacher and a member of the National Board for Professional Teaching Standards Board of Directors, as well as a Nevada Teach Plus Senior Policy Fellow. She is also the winner of the 2018 Rogers Foundation Heart of Education Award. I'm thrilled that she is here now to speak with us, with all of you, and especially the graduates as you embark on your next chapter in education. So please join me in welcoming Juliana Ortube.
Hugsy. I didn't know that. Hugsy. That's the cutest name for a college of education ever. Woo. Okay. So I have my tissue. Likelihood of me crying is high. Very, very high. So don't worry if I cry. I'll be okay. Many along my journey this year have cried along with me. So if that's you, I thank you ahead of time. See, look at that. As an elementary school teacher, yesterday shook me. So So before I address you, allow me the moment to address our country's educators and soon-to-be educators in the wake of this senseless tragedy in Uvalde, Texas, at Robb Elementary School. The great American poet, Nikki Giovanni, addressed the Virginia Tech community and said, "No one deserves a tragedy." And certainly no two tragedies are the same, but often there are lessons in one that can help us make sense of what is in front of us. With 30+ school shootings this year alone, this is a tragedy that for educators and school communities is becoming far too habitual and frequent. Today, I will share her words and I will interchange Virginia Tech for educators, because we are all here to say that all children and educators have a right to feel and be safe in our schools, and that society has the responsibility to act now. Last night, my heart and my body was thinking of all the teachers that today had to confront this reality because our society is unsure of how to unite to pass gun safety measures. Educators alone do not have the tools to keep our students safe. I thought of families who will drop off their children to school, instilling their hope in the daily action of school, and the sadness, fear, and anguish they must have felt this morning. I think of the students who dream of a better tomorrow. That tomorrow starts with us today. So thank you, Maestra Giovanni, for these words I'm about to share that will guide us. We are sad today, and we will be sad tomorrow. We are not moving on. We are embracing our mourning. We are educators. We are strong enough to stand tall, tearlessly, and brave enough to bend a cry, and sad enough to know we must laugh again. We are educators. No one deserves a tragedy. We are educators. The education community embraces our own and reaches out with an open heart and hands to those who offer their hearts and hands. We are strong and brave and innocent and unafraid. We are better than we think and not quite what we want to be. We are alive to the imagination and possibility. We will continue to invent the future through our blood and tears and in all the sadness. We are educators. We will prevail because we are educators. Thank you, Nikki Giovanni, for those beautiful words. So prevailing also means celebrating. Celebrating is part of the rising of our next steps. So we celebrate today, knowing our hearts can carry this together. And if you grant me some grace, I'm going to bring in my early childhood educator self to this stage. I need a little bit of participation. This is something I do with my students. So give me one thumbs up if you are ready to hold the heaviness and move forward. And give me another thumbs up if you're ready to act on this heaviness. Go ahead and put them together. Open your wings and fly away. All right, so now, if you are a graduate or you're graduating tomorrow, can I get a little wave? Look at all those stars out there. This is for you. So buenas tardes to each and every one gathered here to celebrate the outstanding class of 2022. There they are. Graduates, you are looking good. Never have I seen a more diverse and brilliant group of graduates, and I couldn't be more proud to be here today. Whew, thank you, graduates, for all of your hard work and your vision and your dedication. Thank you, Dean Long. Thank you, faculty. Thank you, families and loved ones and guests. I am the third special education teacher to be National Teacher of the Year, and most likely the first bilingual and the first Latina to hold this distinction. And it has meant the world to me to represent special education teachers and students who learn and think differently, as well as linguistically gifted, I'll say that again, linguistically gifted communities and the Latinx communities of US and Colombia. I got some more Colombianas out there, yeah. Graduates, you've made it through, and during one of the most challenging times our educational landscape has ever seen. And wow, am I delighted and proud to have this opportunity to celebrate you and the future impact you'll have on countless communities. Tomorrow is your day, and I want you to take it all in and think of those that have walked before you so you can walk that stage tomorrow. Think of those that are walking with you, reminding you that you are worthy, capable, and enough. And I want you to think of those who wait for you on the other side of that stage. Those waiting for you on the other side of that stage are your future students, the most deserving, the most beautiful students who will love you endlessly and teach you your most beautiful and invaluable life lessons. Those awaiting for you on the other side are also the educators that depend on your advocacy to help us sustain our practice and hope. Educators ready to amplify their expertise to better serve our students and communities. Whether your journey takes you to a classroom, school leadership, higher education, a museum, research, starting your own business or nonprofit, we are all educators and forever will be educators because we collectively have the responsibility to center joy and justice for every single child, family, and community. Educators, I want you to take this moment in. Think of those seres queridos, those loved ones with you here today, who will be here with you tomorrow, maybe physically, maybe afar, or maybe in your heart. Hold them tight. And if they are able to join you today, I want you to look at them now and let that little twinkle in your eye, AKA a tear, let that hold the gratitude you feel for their presence. Go ahead. Yeah, it's important. Eso, así se hace. It is said that the opposite of uncertainty isn't, oddly enough, certainty. It's presence. And during these most difficult times, we know the power of presence. Thank you all for being present today. It's people who show up for us that make the difference. For me and my students my students and their families have taught me 3 incredible lessons that I'd be honored to share with you today. My students have taught me that what matters the most is first our humanity, our students' humanity. Secondly, our collective hope. And thirdly, that there's incredible power in the work we do together. What does it mean to be an educator, to hold the infinite potential of our humanity in the humanity of each child we teach? There's a quote that has become my mantra for remembering the humanity in our students. Dicen los escritores que el océano cabe en una gota y la historia en una página. Many writers say the entire ocean fits in a drop of water and all of history fits on a single written page. Hoy yo digo que en cada niño, niña, niñe cabe la esperanza de la humanidad. Today I say in each child exists the hope of our humanity. Again, what does it mean to be an educator, to hold the infinite potential of our humanity in the humanity of the children we teach? Remember, it's like Rumi said, you are not a drop in the ocean, you are the ocean in a drop. In other words, every child we teach is not a drop in the ocean. They are the ocean unto themselves. The entirety of the ocean is within them. With you all leading our classrooms and schools, our future hope is in excellent hands. My hope was also in excellent hands, as I had teachers that inspired me and saw the ocean in me too. I'm going to tell you a story about finding my voice and my humanity. A journey that could only be possible with excellent educators and mentors that believe in me. In 2009, I stood in a similar place today. I stood in front of my graduating class at the University of Arizona and attempted to give the student address. When I say attempted, I actually mean I cried through the entire speech. I was so fraught with anxiety about the changing political landscape in Arizona, specifically English-only propositions voted into reality that would impact the kind of bilingual programs I dreamed of teaching. When I stood there, overwhelmed with the charge of being a bilingual teacher in a seemingly world that did not want us to hold on to our languages and identities, where I was concerned about massive deportations and family separations, I broke down about the gravity of supporting an unknown group of students that I had already preemptively fallen in love with. See, it's this combination of resilience needed to be myself at the moment and my public speaking anxiety overtook me. My throat closed, I shut down, and the poor ASL interpreter only had inaudible signs to sign. They looked like this. I'll never forget that. Yet somehow I powered through my speech. Somehow I stood tall and shared my visions of a school system that would honor brown and black and indigenous students and their families. But to be honest, I buried deep inside that anxiety and that sense of overwhelm of how to change a system. I went on to teach many, many students to hold on to their pride of identity, language, and humanity, but never fully addressing how heavy that charge is, and yet always knowing intuitively that it was possible to show up as our best selves. My motivation was that the weight would lessen for my students, but these buried feelings would be sure to pop up again. Amazingly enough, my public speaking anxiety did not preclude me from becoming National Teacher of the Year, even though I have needed to address my own healing in order to tap into the power of my voice and my story. Although I might have set some kind of world record for the most times cried in a speech, I cried at the White House and live on CBS twice, and in front of many rooms of educators during my keynotes this year. What I had learned is that many of us needed and wanted to cry because we do not carry the weight of a brighter future alone. Somehow, my vulnerability gave me the strength to face the ails and the celebrations with a little bit more humility. It was connecting to our most vulnerable humanity that allows us as learners and teachers to show up for our students as our fullest selves. I stand before you having completed a full circle as someone who still feels anxiety for the health of our communities and school systems and still sometimes feels overwhelmed about the task of building spaces where all children thrive and are embraced alongside their identities. I stand beside you as someone who believes in the power of educators to use our own healing to come out a little bit stronger, better, and more capable of serving our diverse communities. But my full circle is bigger than just my own experience. Educator, our full circle is in motion. Our schools are becoming more centered around our students' humanity. School systems are becoming more inclusive, more dignified for our students and their families. Today in Arizona and across the country, bilingual and multilingual programs are growing abundant. Our teaching force is becoming more representative through programs like Grow Your Own Teachers. Our systems are shifting to create a healthier support for students and teachers. But it's not without contest. It is with great strength and determination we hold safe that space of a holistic education for all. We know it's still not a reality for all. Yet the seeds are sowing and opportunities are growing. As a first-generation student, I, alongside with my family, navigated a whole new world when we left Colombia. And just like so many of my students, my family left our country to seek safety from a civil war. As a child, I remember feeling the pressures of assimilation, and that terms like English language learner were way too small to capture my family's brilliance and the linguistic gifts of so many like us. My journey inspired me to find ways to heal with community, to build bridges, to acknowledge and honor the brilliance that has always been here. We are not just ELLs, we are linguistically gifted. have learned that there is immense joy in creating spaces where we all belong just as we are. And I've learned that justice is the collective caring for everyone's wellness, while not dodging the accountability we need to build better systems. Justice is deeply learning the historical context of communities within our school. It's ensuring we reframe frames that don't humanize and uplift us. And I have found my own personal healing in using terms like linguistically gifted. Justice is that term that holds spaces for Indigenous languages, African American vernacular English, American Sign Language, and all of the languages of our students and their families. Justice is creating educational spaces that respond to our students' humanity and creativity. Every child deserves a joyous and just education that gives them what they need to succeed while uplifting family and community. And we all have a powerful and unique way of bringing joy and justice to every child in our classrooms. The lineage of joy and justice isn't just mine. It's the work of countless people, of teachers, of activists, linguists, students, families, and more. Joy and justice belongs to us all. And sometimes we can't see this progress of joy and justice because we're in constant motion. But we are walking and moving. You are making beautiful things happen. And the best way for us to hold this truth is to brightly show up each day, to build the learning spaces that welcome and nurture your students' deepest and fullest humanity. My students have taught me that our humanity brings us closer to them, not farther. They have also taught me that from seeing our humanity, we exercise our hope so that we don't lose ourselves in learning. I'd like to share my reminder of hope that I carry each and every day with me as I step into a classroom, in hopes that it will remind you of the hope within you. There's always hope as long as we're disciplined to create it with our students. After all, how could Alice Walker ever be wrong? She says, hope is our best teacher that gives us our toughest homework. So one day, it was the first day of school, a very hectic day, and a student from our garden Know-Me club, gnomes that are homies, know-me's. Yep, we were legit. A student from our garden Know-Me club ran up to me while I was trying to help the mothers find the right teacher for their child. Madness. I was one of the only teachers on campus that spoke Spanish, but we made it happen. Through all of that chaos, Kimberly comes up to me and quietly slips a sweet potato in my hand. I looked down and I was a little bit surprised and confused. As soon as it was possible, I went to her to ask her to tell me more about this curious sweet potato. She looked up at me so very proud and said, "Miss Earth, I spent all summer investigating ways to grow sweet potatoes, just like you showed me in garden club. I wanted to bring you my very first one." She gave me her first one, best gift ever, because it was a tremendous reminder of hope, of what it means to be an educator. Kimberly reminded me that the impact of our teaching is always growing, that when it's time to dig up those camotes, those sweet potatoes, there's always abundance. Sweet potatoes grow underground and their vine are sometimes very thinly leafed. It kind of reminds me of the resources we have in our classroom. But anyway, the vines are thin enough to make you doubt yourself, doubt your impact. But then when harvest time comes around, there is joy and bounty. Kimberly reminded me of why we spent countless hours making sure our students had a beautiful outdoor garden to learn in. She reminded me of the importance of joy and wonder and awe in learning. The need for just spaces that allow us all to grow in our brilliance, just as we are. And I think memories have a funny way of guiding us. Maybe it's our mind's way of showing us hope is always tucked away, always growing underground, even during difficult times. So I want you to think of a student that showed up for you to remind you of your why and your hope. And on the count of 3, we're gonna say their names together. We're gonna bring them inside this tent. Listos? 3, 2, 1, go. To be honest, when I'm struggling, hope is not something I'm always ready to receive. It's often others like Kimberly, even all these years later, that gently remind me the power of hope. It's why we thrive in community. Mariam Kaba, an abolitionist and an activist, reminds us that hope is a way of living. She says, hope doesn't preclude feelings of sadness or frustration or anger or any other emotion that makes total sense. Hope is not an emotion. Hope is not optimism. Hope is a discipline that we have to practice every single day. So remember, educators, you hold the power of our humanity and the power of our hope. Once we understand our humanity and exercise hope, only then are we able to embrace collective work that transforms. And here's what I want you to know about the power of collective work. And it's the same conversation I had with my students and their families as we built our beautiful garden. Collective work is a space where every individual matters. Our contributions are all of equal value. It's the only place we can shine together. In the garden I co-constructed with my school community, we built it together. It was built by students, their families, and staff, slowly and together. We loved calling ourselves the No-Me's. As the garden bloomed, so did our students' interests, our colleagues' creativity, families' sense of welcome. Together, we filled our school with possibilities. Every carrot we pulled out of the soil was confirmation that this work is only done together. It's only possible in collective. The act of sharing this space beautifully encapsulates the power of coming together for a collective goal. In our garden, our collective goal was to ensure every child thrived. Today, our collective goal is not only to celebrate your accomplishments, but also for us to be on this path of building a more joyous and just education for all students together. The lessons of the garden are lessons for life. Graduates, thank you for believing in our students and their families and the collective power of transforming the world. When we transform the world around us, the world inside of us also transform. I believe education, now more than ever, has the ability to transform. In the face of marginalization, educators build classrooms that include and encourage all students to learn and grow. We nurture our students' identities as a point of pride. We humanize our students with their families. We know that with the right access, all of our students can soar. I embrace you all and thank you from the bottom of my corazoncito for being on this journey with me. We have persevered. We have taught through challenges that seemed too big to carry alone. Class of 2022, your full circles are just beginning. You have the power to ensure circles of joy and justice encircle and embrace every single student with their family, every colleague, and every member of our community. Let us continue forward, proudly carrying the power of collective hope and humanity, the power of our collective work. I cannot wait to see you stand in your power and change the world with your students. Muchísimas gracias, felicidades, thank you, and congratulations.
So Juliana, thank you for your words, your wisdom, your dedication, for all that you give to your students, all that you have given us, and all that you're giving to the world. Thank you again. And now, just a few closing announcements. First, I want to make sure that we thank the many, many people who made this event possible and all of the events at Commencement. Please join me in thanking the team from the Office of Student Affairs, Kevin Bohm, Alice Galindo, Andrea Lee, Kelly Ann Robinson, Lydia Hogan, and Crystal Quintanilla. Seriously, you have no idea all the work it takes to pull this off. But I also want to thank our operations team, in particular Amy Fenton and Jim Dumheller, as well as our teams from IT, marketing and communications, and just so many people who have volunteered their time and their energy to make this a successful event. Thank you again. And now, graduates, a few reminders. Please be sure to be ready on Appian Way promptly at 7:25 a.m. tomorrow morning for the university commencement exercises. Thank you, Turner. Can you say that for one more time? 7:25. I've also been asked to remind you to bring your Harvard IDs with you, as you will need them during the day. In Harvard Yard, I will present you to President Bacow to confer your degrees. Now, traditionally, we are the loudest school, and I think especially this year, we need to use our voice, we need to use our collective energy to make a statement. So let's practice. When I say that I'm inviting you all and recognizing you as leaders who are going to change the world through education, you're going to do what? Excellent. You guys are amazing, and tomorrow will be absolutely fantastic. Finally, I want to extend an invitation to all of our graduates, as well as family and friends, to attend the block party that will be on Appian Way and starting in just a few minutes. So thank you again. Enjoy the party, and I'll see you tomorrow.